Before you meet the greatest love of your life, something begins to change inside you. According to Carl Jung, love is not something we simply find, it is something we grow into. Long before a meaningful relationship appears, the psyche sends clear signals that you are becoming ready for it. You may notice that unresolved emotions start resurfacing. Old fears, past heartbreaks, or patterns you thought you had outgrown suddenly demand your attention. Jung described this as confronting the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we often avoid. This is not a setback, but a sign of inner preparation. True love requires self-awareness, not perfection. At the same time, you begin to feel more comfortable being alone. Loneliness loses its grip, and solitude becomes a place of clarity rather than lack. You stop seeking relationships to fill a void and start valuing connection as a choice. Jung believed that only those who can stand whole on their own are capable of genuine union. You may also notice that your expectations change. Superficial attraction no longer satisfies you. You crave depth, authenticity, and emotional truth. This shift reflects the psyche moving away from projection, no longer searching for someone to complete you, but to walk alongside you. Another sign is the collapse of old relationship patterns. Connections that once felt familiar may suddenly feel misaligned. This can be painful, but Jung saw it as a necessary clearing. What no longer reflects your inner growth must fall away to make room for something real. You may feel drawn inward, questioning your values, desires, and life direction. This introspection is part of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. Love, in Jung's view, is not the goal of individuation, but one of its natural outcomes. There is also a subtle emotional shift, less anxiety, less chasing, less fear of loss. You begin to trust life more. Love is no longer something you try to control, but something you allow. This inner calm signals emotional readiness. Finally, you feel a quiet sense of alignment. Not excitement or obsession, but a grounded openness. Jung believed that when inner masculine and feminine energies, the anima and animus, are integrated, we attract relationships that mirror this balance. The greatest love of your life does not arrive to save you. It arrives when you no longer need saving. And when it comes, it feels less like lightning, and more like recognition. If this resonates with you, you may already be closer than you think. And when that love finally appears, it often comes in an unexpected form. Not as a dramatic rescue or a perfect fantasy, but as someone who feels strangely familiar. Jung would say this is because you are no longer projecting your unmet needs onto another person. You are seeing them as they are, and allowing yourself to be seen in the same way. You may notice that communication feels effortless. Not because there is no conflict, but because there is honesty. Disagreements become opportunities for understanding rather than battles to be won. This reflects an inner balance you have already achieved within yourself. There is also a deep sense of emotional safety. You no longer feel the need to perform, impress, or hide parts of yourself. Love becomes a space of truth. Jung believed that intimacy is only possible when the mask falls away, and the authentic self is allowed to emerge. Another quiet sign is patience. You stop forcing outcomes and trust timing. You understand that love unfolds naturally, not through pressure or fear. This patience is a direct result of inner maturity. Most importantly, the relationship does not pull you away from yourself, it brings you closer to who you are. Your individuality is not sacrificed for connection, it is strengthened by it. This is the essence of what Jung meant by a conscious relationship. The greatest love of your life is not meant to complete you. It is meant to reflect you. And when you are ready, love does not feel chaotic or overwhelming. It feels clear, grounded, and deeply real. If you are experiencing these signs, take them as an invitation, not to search harder, but to keep becoming. Because according to Carl Jung, the moment you truly meet yourself is often the moment love is finally able to find you. And even after love has entered your life, the inner work does not stop. Jung believed that every deep relationship continues to activate the unconscious, bringing new layers of growth to the surface. Love becomes a mirror, not always comfortable, but always revealing. You begin to notice that challenges within the relationship no longer feel like threats. Instead, they feel like invitations to grow. Triggers point you back to yourself, showing you where healing is still needed. This is not a sign of failure, but of depth. There is also a growing sense of mutual responsibility. Not control, not dependence, but conscious commitment. Both individuals take ownership of their inner world while choosing to walk together. Jung saw this as the difference between unconscious attachment and conscious love. Over time, admiration replaces idealization. You do not love who you wish the other person to be, but who they truly are, including their imperfections. This grounded appreciation is what allows love to endure. You may also feel a renewed connection to life itself. Creativity, purpose, and meaning expand. Jung believed that when love aligns with individuation, it becomes a source of psychological and spiritual vitality. Most subtly, fear loosens its grip. The fear of abandonment, of loss, of being alone no longer controls your actions. Love becomes free, not because it is guaranteed, but because it is chosen in awareness. In the end, the greatest love is not defined by intensity, drama, or constant happiness. It is defined by consciousness, by two people meeting not to escape themselves, but to evolve together. And that, according to Carl Jung, is love in its highest form. And with that awareness comes a profound shift in how you experience connection. Love is no longer something that consumes you, but something that supports you. It does not pull you away from your path, it walks beside it. Jung believed that when love aligns with the self, it becomes stabilizing rather than destabilizing. You may notice that silence between you feels natural. There is no urgency to fill every moment with words or reassurance. Presence becomes enough. This comfort in silence reflects inner wholeness, a sign that both individuals are rooted in themselves. Another subtle transformation is the way you relate to time. You stop rushing the future or clinging to the past. The relationship exists fully in the present. Jung saw this as a sign that unconscious fears are no longer dictating your behavior. You also become more compassionate, not only toward your partner, but toward yourself. Mistakes are met with understanding rather than self-judgment. Love becomes a place of learning instead of punishment. As the bond deepens, you may sense that the relationship has a purpose beyond romance. It encourages growth, truth, and self-realization. Jung believed that meaningful relationships often act as catalysts for individuation, pushing both people toward their true potential. There is no illusion that love will solve all problems. Instead, there is a quiet confidence that whatever arises can be faced together. This confidence does not come from certainty, but from inner strength. Ultimately, the greatest love feels less like falling and more like standing firmly, together. Not losing yourself in another, but discovering yourself more fully through connection. And when love arrives in this way, it does not announce itself loudly. It simply feels right. And that sense of rightness is calm, not intoxicating. There is no constant emotional roller coaster, no need to prove, chase, or hold tightly. Jung would say this is because the unconscious is no longer running the relationship. Conscious choice has taken its place. You begin to notice that love coexists with freedom. Both partners have space to grow, to change, to explore their individuality without fear of abandonment. Instead of threatening the bond, this freedom strengthens it. Love becomes flexible, alive, and resilient. There is also a deep respect for boundaries. You recognize where you end and the other begins. Jung believed that true intimacy requires clear boundaries. Without them, love turns into fusion or dependency. Here, closeness and autonomy exist in balance. Gradually, gratitude replaces longing. You are no longer focused on what is missing, but on what is present. This shift reflects a psyche that feels fulfilled rather than deprived. Love becomes appreciation, not pursuit. Even uncertainty is no longer terrifying. You accept that change is part of life and that no relationship is guaranteed. Yet instead of fear, there is trust, in yourself, in your capacity to cope, and in the authenticity of the connection. At this stage, love feels less personal and more universal. It connects you not only to another person, but to life itself. Jung often spoke of love as a force that expands consciousness, moving us beyond ego and isolation. In the end, the greatest love does not mark the end of the journey. It becomes part of it, a companion to your becoming, not a destination. And perhaps that is the final sign Jung would point to, when love no longer feels like the answer to life, but a meaningful expression of it. And from that place, love takes on a quieter, deeper quality. It no longer needs constant validation or dramatic gestures to feel real. Its strength lies in consistency, presence, and shared truth. Jung believed that what endures is not passion alone, but meaning. You may notice that your sense of self remains intact within the relationship. You do not shrink to maintain harmony, nor do you dominate to feel secure. Both people are allowed to be complex, contradictory, and human. This mutual acceptance creates emotional depth. There is also an ease in vulnerability. You can speak your fears without shame and listen without defensiveness. Love becomes a space where honesty is safe. Jung saw this openness as a sign that the ego is no longer protecting itself through masks. As time passes, admiration deepens into respect. You witness each other's growth, struggles, and transformations, and love evolves with them. It is not frozen in an idealized image, but alive and responsive. You may even find that love brings you closer to parts of yourself you had forgotten: creativity, curiosity, purpose. Jung believed that meaningful relationships often awaken dormant aspects of the psyche, enriching life as a whole. Conflict, when it arises, is met with reflection rather than blame. You ask not only, "What did you do?" but, "What is this teaching me?" This shift transforms difficulties into insight. And so love becomes less about possession and more about participation. Two individuals consciously choosing each other, again and again, not out of fear or need, but out of understanding. In this way, the greatest love is not loud or overwhelming. It is steady, honest, and deeply human. And yet, even in this wholeness, the journey continues to unfold. Love does not settle into a fixed shape, it keeps evolving as you do. Jung believed that the psyche is never static, and neither is a truly conscious relationship. New phases of life bring new reflections. Changes in purpose, loss, success, uncertainty, all of them test and deepen the bond. Love becomes less about romance and more about presence during transformation. It learns how to adapt without losing its core. You may notice that the relationship begins to reflect a deeper wisdom. There is less reaction and more response. Less impulse, more intention. Jung would say this is the ego learning to listen to the self. There is also a growing reverence for the individuality of the other. You no longer try to shape them into who you need them to be. You allow them to unfold in their own time, just as you do. This respect creates a quiet sacredness in the connection. Moments of doubt may still appear, but they no longer dominate. They pass through awareness without taking control. Love remains steady, not because it is flawless, but because it is conscious. And slowly, almost unnoticed, love begins to extend beyond the relationship itself. It influences how you move through the world, how you relate to others, how you face conflict, how you understand yourself. Jung believed that this is when love becomes transformative, not only personal. In this way, love stops being a chapter in your life story and becomes part of its foundation. Not something added on, but something integrated. And the path keeps opening. And as the path keeps opening, love reveals dimensions you could not have imagined at the beginning. It becomes quieter, deeper, and more spacious. There is room for silence, for mystery, for the unknown. Jung believed that what we do not fully understand often holds the greatest meaning. You may begin to sense that love is no longer driven by emotion alone, but by awareness. Feelings rise and fall, but the connection remains rooted. This stability does not come from certainty, but from trust in the inner process. There is also a subtle humility that emerges. You accept that neither you nor your partner can be everything for each other. And instead of weakening the bond, this acceptance strengthens it. Love breathes when expectations loosen. Over time, the relationship becomes a place where contradictions are allowed. Strength and vulnerability, closeness and distance, joy and grief can coexist. Jung saw this ability to hold opposites as a sign of psychological maturity. You may notice that love teaches you patience in ways nothing else can. Not passive waiting, but active presence. The willingness to stay engaged even when clarity is not immediate. And through all of this, love continues to reflect you back to yourself. Not the version you were, but the one you are becoming. This reflection is not always gentle, but it is honest. So the journey continues, not toward an ending, but toward deeper understanding. And with deeper understanding comes a quiet acceptance of impermanence. You recognize that everything in life changes, including love, and instead of resisting this truth, you honor it. Jung believed that embracing impermanence is part of psychological freedom. Love no longer promises permanence, it offers presence. It is lived moment by moment, with care and awareness. This presence becomes more valuable than any guarantee. You may notice that the relationship now carries a sense of shared meaning. Not a dramatic purpose, but a lived one, shown in everyday choices, mutual support, and silent understanding. Love expresses itself in small, human ways. There is also a gentle release of control. You stop trying to protect the relationship from every possible threat. You trust its resilience, and more importantly, you trust yourself. This trust is the fruit of inner work. At this stage, love feels less like desire and more like recognition. A recognition of another soul walking their own path, choosing to walk beside yours for as long as it makes sense. Jung saw this as the highest form of union without loss of self. And so the story does not end with certainty, passion, or promises. It ends with awareness. With two individuals standing in truth, open to life, open to change, and open to love as it is, not as it should be. That is the kind of love Carl Jung believed was worth waiting for.